Can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fuck it.
Yes, here we go. It's Thursday, October 17th, another live edition of the Daily Puck Drop. Welcome in. If you're watching on Twitter and YouTube, hello. There's the old Crimson coffee mug. Big thanks to Tim from the Collective sending that. Thanks to him. Also, if you're listening on the Puck Sports mobile stream, appreciate it. If you don't have the Puck Sports mobile app, go to the Apple Store and download it today. Now, for you Android users, it's a broken record. All right? I'm a one-man band over here. It takes time to get it through the Google Play Store. But I promise you, on my kids, okay, it's coming. I swear it's coming. It's coming soon. We are broadcasting live from the Puck Sports Studios, which is just a room off the main floor. It's all built by Limbach Lumber. It really is just the Limbach Lumber Studios. Contractors, they got free deliveries from everything, from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. So, again, free deliveries in and around the area. So, if you want if you want first-class service and you just want old-school approach and you're looking to do any project, I'll send a picture of it. We just did a fence in our backyard. The neighbor's fence, we had it replaced. Limbach Lumber. Easy peasy. It's great. Local. And they offer free deliveries. And they also have the largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Again, old school service. They handle everything with paper still. No information's put in on a computer. It's all a paper trail, which is remarkable. And they've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbachlumber.com. And go check them out, Limbach Lumber, on Instagram as well. They've got some of the coolest gear, like T-shirts and hats and stuff, and a great logo, so you can purchase that as well. And you can visit them on Instagram there at Limbach Lumber. All right, we do the show every single day live here on X, on YouTube, also on the Puck Sports and mobile stream. Obviously, I know there are probably still some issues with the YouTube stream, with the crackling. Still working that out with our platform, Riverside, and also YouTube, but it appears to be one of their issues, and we'll figure it out as soon as we can. Again, just a reminder, everything that we do here on the Daily Puck Drop is podcasted later. So the entire show goes up on YouTube. If you want to watch it that way, I know a lot of you like to watch it after the show is over. You have lives. I don't, but you do. You have an actual life where things, you work, you have a family, you got things to do, so you can't watch everything live. So I know a lot of people watch this stuff later. We put the whole show up there. And then, in addition, like today's guest, Mike Garofolo, who will join us in about 15 minutes, and then our opponent preview with the great Andy Bunker, who's back. We chatted with Andy last week, talking about the Hurricane Helene and the relief fund that he started with his wife. But Andy's back for our opponent preview because the Seahawks are playing the Falcons, and Andy is now a talk show host in Atlanta, Georgia. So we'll talk to Andy coming up at around 11 o'clock today. And those two elements of the show, they're all going to be, up there separately. So, again, video separately. They're up there on YouTube, also on Apple and Spotify, and everything up at pucksports.com. But as we always say, please, even though we're in a live platform now, please like and subscribe and leave comments, anything that you can. It all helps the old cause. So we appreciate it. We appreciate you tuning in every morning. It's great. It's great to hear feedback from everyone. Puck at pucksports.com. I love all of it. I love interacting with you guys. I love that a lot of you have made the transition over from the radio side to this new platform. And, I don't even know how many months we're into this now. We started opening day. So what is that? I'm bad at math. Okay. April, May, June, July, August, September, October. We're going to almost go in 7 months. 7 months. God, we're halfway through, almost to a year. A lot of you have made the move over for the past 7 months, whether it's been in this live platform or just doing the podcast that we originally did in the first 4 or 5 months of the show, thank you. I don't say thank you enough, but thank you to all who have tuned in via watching, listening live, going back, listening on the podcast, watching on YouTube. I love it. Even some of you with the negative comments, I enjoy those as well. But this has been a hell of a journey. There's been ups and downs, peaks and valleys to it. I try to think of more cliches, but somebody asked me, "Oh, would you ever regret what you did?" No, ever, never, ever, ever. So this has been fun. It's been fun for me because it's a new challenge. It's a new challenge to do something that a lot of people haven't ever done before. So thank you for coming along on the ride. All right, I'm done. I'm done kissing your ass. All right, let's get to the top headlines of the day. As I mentioned, Mike Garofolo coming up at 10:20. Opponent preview with Andy Bunker coming up at 11 o'clock. Headlines, God, there's a lot. Jamal Adams got released today, and then I sarcastically said with a picture of Schneider on Twitter, "Do it." And right away, I was hoping this would be the first response, because right away it elicited a response from our good friend, contributor to the show, a man that I love dearly, Rob State. He was like, "Buck, you can't be serious." Well, no, I'm not serious. But as I told Rob, all of us are in the entertainment business. And to have him back would be entertaining, because people like Rob would lose their minds if Jamal Adams came back. And the fact that Jenkins just goes on the IR yesterday, Jamal Adams asks for his release. Bring him home. Is anyone wearing 33? Oh, the punt returner, the kick returner. Bring him home. Why not? I'll ask Garofolo about it today at 2:20. It's not happening. I just like to have fun with it, and I think it would be great entertainment. All right, that's it. So Jamal Adams was released. We're going to get into the Seahawks offensive line more. I looked at it even more this morning. God, it's worse than I thought. That's saying something. We'll do quickly into that. An interesting subplot to the game coming up on Sunday is, how much is Michael Penix helping the Atlanta defense and helping Jimmy Lake? I mean, there's so many tentacles, to this game with the connections of the two cities. We talked about it yesterday, Jim and I, that, the whole Jimmy Lake, he's the new defensive coordinator for Atlanta, and that whole connection there. And if he had never hit the guy in the Oregon game, is Jimmy Lake still the head coach? And then Kalen DeBoer is never the head coach. And then think about that. Ryan Grubb's not the offensive coordinator of the Seahawks. Scott Huff's not here. There's so much of what that Jimmy Lake punch, quotation marks punch, changed kind of everything in both towns. But, Michael Penix now being the backup there to Kirk Cousins, how much is he helping him? Who knows the offense better? I mean, they've got film and all that, but Michael Penix knows it as good as anyone. So how much is he helping Atlanta's defense? We'll talk to Andy Bunker at 11 o'clock about that. Something that Bunker brought up that I didn't think of, I want to touch it. Dan Lanning. Does Dan Lanning really that smart? Well, we'll answer that. Mariners offseason. We started our series yesterday with Ryan Divish, who will join us in the offseason. Every week talking Mariners baseball. We just don't give him time off. One, because he doesn't want time off. So big thanks to our good friends at Reggie and the crew at Chalet Bowl. He will be joining us in the offseason as well. We touched on Cal Raleigh. Each week we'll have a new kind of storyline, one particular topic to chat about. And yesterday's topic was about Cal Raleigh, his future, can they afford him, all of that. John, there's been this I wouldn't say it's a lot. And I tend to analyze stuff that I see on social media. It's a great weakness of mine. If I see like one or two people mention something, I'm like, oh, everybody's talking about it. And I know it's not true. But I have seen where a few people in the Cougar Nation are asking for John Mateer to be benched. So, and you know me as the president of the Mateer fan club. That's not going to sit well. We'll touch on that. Let's quickly, we touched on Jamal Adams. It's not going to happen, so don't worry about it. I'm just being a smart ass to bring Jamal Adams back, really, because I know that it annoys Rob Staten, and I want to annoy Rob as much as I can. We were on the show yesterday when Rob was on. We were talking about, Rob has lost it, I think, a little bit on this team. But, the biggest, one of the bigger, conversations that we had yesterday was just the offensive line play, but just the team overall. I don't think, honestly, they're that far away. Okay. I mean, how do you articulate this properly? They are and they aren't. You go back and look at the Niners game. They didn't play a good game. And there's so many mistakes in that game. But, God, I mean, it's a really razor's edge, isn't it? DK gets his foot down, game's way different. Touchdown to DK doesn't get called back, game is way different. I mean, I know there's these ifs and buts and candies and nuts and all that, but as poorly as they played, they were kind of right there. Now, they do have just some glaring deficiencies. And this is where, and I'm just using Rob as an example because we just talked Seahawks pretty much all offseason, where we would disagree, but not yelling disagreement. He was always more fired up and has been always more fired up about the defense. I was always going to be more excited about the offense. I just thought it was, but with the caveat, I'm really excited about the offense if the offensive line can do anything. Well, it's kind of been hit and miss. I think the offense clearly has been better than the defense. But they've had, their ups and downs. But I think a lot of their ups and downs is because their offensive line is just terrible, not good. But I wasn't sold on their defense. I didn't think they had enough up front still. Not the biggest fan of Leonard Williams, but understand why they had to bring him back. Love the Murphy pick. That was great. Just didn't think that they did enough with the linebackers. In love with the secondary, especially Woolen and Devin Witherspoon. But I thought they would defensively would not be as good. I didn't think Mike McDonald was going to be able to come on in and really just, completely change that defense. Now, in terms of the offense, and this is what we talked about yesterday, like Rob did, they're for Rob and myself. I mean, offensive line is clearly, the biggest issue for this team, but they're not playing good at all. They're terrible, and we touched on it yesterday during the show. Myself and Rob Staten.
I don't think they're on the right path. I don't think their identity is muddled. They are not playing consistent football. The defense stinks. The O-line stinks. I just think you've got to be honest about that. And people don't like it. People go, what are you doing? It's six games. You can already tell this team doesn't feel like it's going to go to the Super Bowl or go on a playoff run or anything like that. You've got guys sulking on the sidelines. I keep thinking back to the quotes from KJ Wright last year where they were going, who's a leader in the team? And he's going, and they're going, is Geno a leader? And he's like, no. Is this guy a leader? He's like, no. And he says, well, who is a leader? And he goes, Jaron Reed might be. And that's it. It kind of speaks to it. The makeup of this team right now, it's got some good players. It's got some players who've got physical potential to be great. It hasn't got what you need to be a Super Bowl team.
And I mean, I didn't think that they were a Super Bowl team going into the season. I mean, I know that's everyone's goal when the season starts. But I mean, I think if we were being realistic of where they were at, I don't think anyone. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people really thought they were going to be Super Bowl contenders. Playoffs, so I thought they had a chance at the playoffs, and I still do think they have a chance at the playoffs. I mean, I think Sunday's game is massively pivotal. Atlanta's pass rush is not great. Maybe that's the recipe for this offensive line. Their offense is great, scares the hell out of me. I think it's going to be a track meet. They're going to have to outscore Atlanta. This is going to be a defensive game. There's no way because Atlanta's going to be able to move the ball up and down the field. Those trio of wide receivers with Mooney and Drake London. You can't forget about Kyle Pitts, Ray McLeod, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. I mean, they've just got this is overall the best offense that they have faced. Maybe it's on par with Detroit, but this is the best. And yeah, I mean, they're going to give up a ton of points. It's now, the numbers that Geno has, when he plays indoors, that's been well documented. You'll probably see it. They're going to splash it all across the screen on Sunday. He's been great indoors. He's going to have to be the guy, and that offense is going to have to be the guy there on Sunday. But it's bad. That offensive line. I mean, I looked this up this morning and again, there's a love-hate affair here with Pro Football Focus. But their pressure rate, according to PFF, their offensive line, they've got their 3 of their 5 guys are the worst in the league. And one of them surprises me because I thought Charles Cross was having a good year. And I still do think he's having a good year. This is where maybe you look at the analytics of PFF, but then you watch your eyes, you're like, that doesn't really make sense. But Stone Forsythe, in terms of pressure rate, pressures given up, leads the league, 35. Second place is 19. By the way, tied for second place is Charles Cross. And then Anthony Bradford is 4th with 18. So three of their top 5 offensive linemen, are giving up pressures left and right. So it's not so much about sacks, right? And anybody that watches football and talks about football will tell you that sacks are great and those are fun, but how much are you getting pressure on the quarterback? And these guys are giving up pressure left and right. And I don't think Geno is. We all agree that I think Geno's a good quarterback. I don't know how much Geno can sit there and prevent what is happening to him up front. I don't know what quarterback could. So it's hard for him to be able to deal with that. We'll get more NFL stuff here with Mike Garofolo coming up shortly as we go around to the headlines. One thing I want to talk about, this idea. I've seen this a little bit online. And again, I focus too much on like 1 or 2 people. We talked about it on Old Crimson this week. If you're a Coug fan, if you're not a Coug fan, the Old Crimson podcast, Old Crimson Cougars podcast, brought to you by the Cougar Collective and Flat Stick Pub, is a wonderful podcast, by the way. And it's only on the podcast platforms. We don't do it live. We talked about this week of some wanting quarterback John Mateer benched in favor of Zevi Eckhouse. Time for a QB change? Zevi time. Zevi Eckhouse.
No, I don't want a quarterback change. You've been talking about Mateer for seemingly like decades, and I love that kid. We're going however far we go this year is with John Mateer. It's not going to be with Zevi, whatever his name is, And I don't want to denigrate that kid, but I mean I'm all in on Mateer, and I'm okay when he throws an interception, he makes a bad pass here and there. I'm going, well, okay, it's a work in progress.
Eckhart can throw the ball. I saw a couple 40-yard throws. He's very accurate. Doesn't have the arm strength and the zip that Mateer has. He's actually better at throwing on the run than Mateer is. Mateer's better when he steps back and that ball comes out. Mateer tends to airmail it when he gets on the run, where Zevi doesn't really have the strength to throw that deep out, the deep corner, those kinds of things.
I can only base it on one practice that I saw. I went over there and I watched their first scrimmage, and this was when they were still in a QB competition. And again, and I'm biased because I like John Mateer, so I probably go into it thinking I'm going to give John Mateer, the benefit of the doubt before I even walked into it. So I have to acknowledge that. But I did honestly come away thinking this isn't even close, not even close of a competition. I mean, Zevi is a good quarterback, but he doesn't have the arm to push it downfield. He doesn't. And so it would be a lot of dink and dunk. But I'll say this, of those in the Cougar Nation that want a quarterback change, I mean, I get it. He hasn't played well, especially the last 3 games. And for the most part, in the passing game, he's been below average. But I'll say this about him. If he's not your quarterback, you're 3-3, maybe 2-4. He won you the Washington game. Okay, I know the stop at the end. He won you the game. He was the best player on the field. He won you the San Jose State game as well. And I can make an argument, and again, it's revisionist history. If Texas Tech has their starting running back, which they didn't, but let's say they don't have him. He won you the Tech game too. I mean, he had 200 yards rushing. So again, they're an average football team without him. So in large part, why they're 5-1 is because of him. Again, the late, first half interceptions are one thing, and I get it. They're problematic. I think he would tell you that. It is an issue, and he needs to get better in the passing game. He is, when guys are wide open. This is why I don't think it's an Arbuckle issue as well, because I know there's been some chatter on that. I mean, guys are open. I think the one critique, let me just pivot real quick to Arbuckle, is, I think he gets away from the run too fast. But then again, that's the problem with the air raid. And you've heard me, I'm a broken record on that. This is why I don't like the air raid. It's exactly what people are complaining about now, because it's just too dependent on the pass. But whatever, you're married to it, so you're not going to change it. But Arbuckle could stand to run the ball a little bit more. But on the pass plays that he has schemed up, guys are open. John is he's missed him. He's missed him. I don't think early on, not a problem in the Fresno game, but early on, his offensive line didn't help him at all. It was not good, certainly not good against Boise State. And frankly, I don't think his wide receivers are all that dynamic. I mean, I think besides Kyle Williams, what do you got? I like Meredith as a nice player. Chris Hudson's okay, but they're not dynamic. And, I think they lack that. They lack that dynamic wide receiver and a big wide receiver. They're really, really small. There on the outside, but I mean, I think it all could probably get better. But no way would I say let's bench him. That is not that. I'm gonna repeat. That is not the solution to bench John Mateer. You want to bench John Mateer, you go find out, how that offense looks without him. How many times has he saved that offense? All right, we'll get back. I want to get back to Dan Lanning a little bit later. Mike Garofolo joins us momentarily. Mike Garofolo, of course, is brought to you by Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. Honesty, fairness, integrity. You give Jamie Hartley a call there, 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island, the perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends, and catch the game. There at Zogs on Fox Island. Let's talk a little. Oh, I got a little echo there with you, sir.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not coming through my headphones. I had this. Hold on.
You take your time.
It's not picking up my Yeti.
This is the beauty of live
Don't know what
programming.
happened. Wait a second. Hold on. Yeah, see, that's working. I don't know.
We're picking up your computer, I think, is what we're picking up.
Don't know what to tell you. It was fine before. Let me log out and come back in. Hi, everybody.
All right. It's
Be right
okay.
back.
That's the beauty of it. This is why I love doing live entertainment. Because of this. It allows you to pivot, be quick on your toes. Now it gives me time to talk about Dan Lanning. And I'm going to bring it back up with Andy Bunker when we'll get Garofolo back on. I don't think Dan Lanning did it on purpose now. And I think Andy Bunker has freaking convinced me. I think Dan Lanning's kind of an idiot. And I think he's taking credit for something he didn't mean to do. All right, Mike Garofolo is back with us.
Okay, we're good.
Oh, you sound great. God, those beautiful, just dark bass vocal cords. How are you, Mike Garofolo?
Doing great, Puck. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. This was, I think, last week, Mike. And again, Mike is with us, brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance and Zogs on Fox Island. He's with us every single Thursday. I think this last week of the NFL was about the craziest week in the NFL that I can remember. I mean, the trades, the unfortunate injury to Aiden Hutchinson, and then my favorite part of the week was Jerry Jones. You and I both being old sports radio guys.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that immensely.
Does he own that station?
I assume so because it's the flagship.
Okay. So for him to say, like, I can replace you,
He can.
he can't. Right.
Yeah.
Which would not be a great look at this point, right?
Can you imagine if those two guys found out they were out of jobs?
So if you're the hosts, you got to feel like you got a little bit of protection by the fact that this happened publicly.
Yeah.
Because if he did that, he would get slaughtered. But by the same token, maybe he doesn't care. I don't know.
I don't know, man. But
I remember there was one, because he usually will field relatively tough questioning on that show. But there was one week where, gosh, they had lost or something had happened, or I don't know. And he said, there was a moment where you want to get smart with me? Is that how we're going to do it? Like something like this. I got to go back and find that one for you, because that was great as well. But it was only that little moment. This one, he seemed to carry it all the way through.
my buddy that we used to work together in Portland, Oregon, Gavin Dawson, used to do that show. Gavin works there now and on a different time slot now, but he had him on the show. Maybe that was with him, but I used to always text him like, you get to interview the owner of the team every week. That's unbelievable. Like there's no other owner in sports, right, that does a weekly show. And then what I love even more than that is the fact that he does, the press conference after the games in the hallway before the coach even talks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are times where he won't do it. And it's like, is he really, he must be really upset, because then you try to read into that. But yeah, he'll stand there and you can ask him anything. And, but he's definitely gotten a little punchier of late. So
he's 82.
Yeah. I also think he thought that this team, at this point was locked and loaded and ready to go.
Yeah.
Which spoke to why they didn't do some of the things in the offseason that people wanted them to do, because they felt like they had enough, and now it's not looking that way. So, it's going to be interesting to watch to see if this doesn't work out. And, he seems to be defending Mike McCarthy, but by the same token, his temperament tells you he's just not happy at all.
Why doesn't he? And I mean, if you knew the answer to this, or if he even wanted to do it, why doesn't he just go hire like a legitimate president and general manager? I mean, he's the owner of the team. Like, why does he want to do? He's 82. Why does he even want to do that? Just hire. You have all the money in the world. They're worth. What are they worth? Like $10 billion.
Doesn't matter at this point. His life is what his life is going to be. It's never going to change, right?
But just give it to somebody. Be like, just win me a championship. Hire the smartest guy in the room.
He is the smartest guy in the room. Just ask him. Which is not really to say that Will McClay is the de facto general manager and does a very nice job there, by the way. Does a really good job. Will McClay does. And he trusts him. Teams have tried to pull Will away and have been unsuccessful, so I'm sure he's getting compensated greatly. And Steven also has great input. Go back to what year was it, the Manziel, that they had to, stop him. And so at least he will allow himself to be stopped, right? At least he does seem to take the feedback of those around him.
Yeah, I just, it's one of those weird things. I don't quite understand it. Yeah, I don't know why he just doesn't want, to sit there and allow people to, help him out.
They are. I just said he is.
Yeah, but it just doesn't feel that. Does he not take it?
He does. He does. I don't know what would change if you brought in somebody that he's still going to have. He still wants to be involved. Remember that scene of him with the breakfast sandwich during Hard Knocks from a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
It's a great scene of him just taking the pulse of the team and then eating that sandwich. And they really didn't have a whole lot. They were limited access. HBO was that year. So that they had that, and they kind of leaned into that. And it was just this great scene of like, really, this is how he's going to eat his breakfast right here.
Yeah, but he's, I don't know. It's to see that team where they're at get so hammered like they did. Mike, there's losses in the NFL, and then there was a loss like that. Like, you just don't see losses like that in the league.
You don't see a team that. Their wins have been big too, right? Their wins have been significant. The way that they smashed the Browns, and the Steelers game was close. The Giants game was never really in doubt in my mind. So it's like it's been in the age of parity where it's usually, hey, all these games were decided by X amount of points this week. The NFL loves to tout that. This team, for some reason, has gone the other way. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Sure. Hey, congratulations to Davante Adams. Boy, that hamstring cleared up real quickly.
Right?
Good for him.
It's like the guy who's dancing with the crutches and he just throws them.
Yeah. I thought he would be done for the year.
Which is funny because everybody in Vegas was like, no, he's got a legitimate injury. Okay, he's got a legitimate injury. And maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe it coincided, but it's not like he came back to the Jets and was limited. He was a full participant in practice his first day. So
Yeah.
there's a way of, everybody said, well, it's pending a physical. He's got an injury.
But
Yeah,
but the Raiders play a part in this too, right? Because they don't want to play him in order to, they know they're going to trade him. And so they know they don't want to play him to get him hurt, right? Is that part of it?
Yeah, well, that's part of it. And also, kind of sort of honoring his trade request. Like, hey, I don't want to play another down for this team. Okay, fine. You're not going to play another down for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, you want to, okay, hamstring injury, great. Whether it's real or not. Mike Williams right now with the Jets seems to be doing the same thing because now that Adams is in, Williams is going to be out. He missed practice because of personal reasons yesterday. You weren't looking. I did air quotes when I said that.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then today he's there, but he's working on a side field. So who knows how he'll be listed on the injury report, but this is another one of like, okay, yeah, I understand you're upset. We're going to look for the best suitor, and they're going to get nothing for him. I mean, it's not going to be an Adams type trade. It's going to be their day 3 draft pick compensation. Because somebody's going to have to take on a big number for him as well. But he's practicing on a side field, and it's like, okay. And teams are willing to do that because you're right. It does help them. He's not out there, and then he breaks a leg, and all of a sudden they lose out on a draft pick.
Yeah. So he gets his wish. He goes to the Jets. How much does it make him better?
I mean, I heard,
Yeah.
I've heard former players talk about, well, it takes the attention off of Garrett Wilson. Great. Opens up the running game. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps Aaron Rodgers happy. Cool. They're 2-4 with an interim head coach. The offensive play calling I thought got better, but still, you got to win that game. You've got to win that game. And I'm surprised because we talked about this. Full transparency. Ian Rappaport and I we're on the air on Sunday, and we're both talking about how this thing is going to come on Tuesday. And I said to Ian, the only thing I can't really factor in is if the Jets lose Monday night. Does Woody go, oh, wait a second, you know what? And instead he did the opposite. Like, I thought I had more time that morning to say, hey, all right, so what's going on? What's and they were like, it was done the night before. Sometime, if you do the math on it, it seems like it was sometime during the game that it was agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got an owner right now who is all in with a roster that he believes is the best one that he's ever had. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. There were some really talented rosters back when Rex Ryan was the head coach. Now, the quarterback's obviously better, but he's on the back end of his career. When this happened the other day, I was like, and I've got a diehard Jet fan who, a friend of mine who I thought was going to be way in on it. And he was kind of like, why did we just light a draft pick on fire? Because there was even if you wanted to get him next year, the Raiders were going to have to release him. They weren't going to pay him the number that was on the books.
Mm-hmm.
So they got their, usually it's a comp pick, but you're not getting a comp pick until 2026. So they got it a year early. And I can't imagine it would have been as high as what they've got potentially here. So first of all, there are no second round comp picks. So Raiders did a great job on this one.
Right. Our good friend Jamal Adams, he's got his release. So Jamal Adams, now the era in Tennessee is over. I would ask you what happened, but I can only assume what happened. But he's now he's not good anymore. They don't play him, and he's upset. And he still thinks he's the best safety in football, probably. So where does he land? For entertainment purposes, want him to come back here so everyone loses their mind.
I would say that would be fun. Which honestly, if we talked about this spring, summer, right? The door was open, but he would have to be a linebacker with the Seahawks.
Right.
And it sounds like those around him are saying, "Well, who needs a safety? Well, where can we?" You're not a safety, so where does he go to be a linebacker? I hear he is in the New York area for his birthday. Is his birthday? I meant to check that.
Okay.
So if it's his birthday, I'll know that's accurate. So hold on, Jamal.
Well, what does that mean? Is he coming back to the Jets?
No, but that's what October 17th. Today's his birthday.
Okay.
Probably should have noted that. Happy birthday, Jamal Adams.
Way to go, Jamal.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't see. Usually the team will wish the players did the Titans wish Jamal Adams a happy birthday today?
Probably not.
Yeah, a lot of people want him to come back to the Jets. They think that would be high.
Oh, why not? Why
I don't know that the welcome mat would be rolled out here the same way that it was rolled out or would potentially be rolled out in Seattle.
Okay. Sorry. So he's not coming back to Seattle. I want people, I tweeted that out and people lost their mind. Oh, why would you want him back? It was a joke. All right, people, just relax. It's just a joke. He's not coming back here. Don't worry about it. Surprise. Well, I guess they haven't made it the announcement yet, Mike, but at least Mike Tomlin has opened the door for Russell Wilson.
I'll make the announcement. Russell Wilson's starting. Go ahead. There you go. There's your announcement.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
Why?
Did you see the quote from Arthur Smith, by the way, today? So he's talking about Justin Fields said, I didn't play well enough.
Mm-hmm.
If I did, which was great. If I did, there would be no doubt about who's the starting quarterback. So he didn't play well enough, which I think. So this was Arthur Smith then saying, I think guys are a little hard on themselves sometimes, basically saying he didn't play that poorly, which I thought was funny for two reasons. One, gives you an indication of who Arthur Smith thinks the starting quarterback should be, as does this line. He's 4-2. He's been pretty productive. And so whatever Mike tells us to do, like I said, I've got it ready either way and just working, and that's my job. Basically, I just work here. Like that was the ultimate, I just work here. Whatever Mike tells us to do. I was kind of like, because we know this is Tomlin. Tomlin's been driving the Russell Wilson bus since before they acquired him. Like telling people we can get this guy for the veteran minimum, which is fine, which is great. Okay. But to put your eggs in that basket the way that he has and the way that he's been pushing for Russell Wilson to be the guy, despite a spring that wasn't great, a summer in which he didn't practice and play that much because of the calf issue.
Right.
And Justin Fields doing pretty well during the regular season. Mike Tomlin is still firmly in Russell Wilson's corner. And so that's the opinion that matters the most in that building.
Well, it's interesting because it's not like he hasn't lit the world on fire, has Fields. But they've won and he's performed okay. Their offensive line's not that good. He's had to scramble for a lot
too. That doesn't help.
He's had to scramble for a lot of stuff. And Russell's just not what he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
He's not. And you saw there was a design run.
Yeah, they're not doing that with him.
No, but there was a design run for Fields the other day where 1, 2, 3, boom, he planted and the offensive line, and it was like he was gone, like a running back gone.
Yeah.
And you're not getting that from Russ. Like, I don't understand. So, in other words, you take that away. You're taking the ceiling away. You're taking the dynamic ability away because that ceiling he could potentially continue to progress toward. You're taking all that away, and you're getting, in your mind, like Fields is down here, potentially going up here. In your mind, you're up here. Okay, and you're getting this, but you better get that. Like you may not get that. You may get this.
Yeah,
right. We've seen this.
Right, 100%.
So I don't, but Mike Tomlin, he gets a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt here because of his overall record and his streak of non-losing seasons, which seems to be continuing.
Because this is in your neck of the woods. I was going to save this at the end, but I want to get it now because it's a funny story. Fireman Ed, are the Jets trying to push Fireman Ed out? He thinks so. He's gone to social media thinking the Jets are pushing him out.
I didn't notice that the other night. I honestly didn't. He was definitely up there.
Okay.
I don't know why. I mean, he was up there. Maybe he wasn't every touchdown, but third downs, they were cutting to him.
Were they?
And you could see him. Let's go! And he's waving the hat on Thursday. I mean, I saw it. Did I take score and see if it was every single time? I have no idea. But they were definitely cutting it. It's not like they went cold turkey.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they had some sponsored elements that they had to get in there instead. I don't know. They were also showing, and maybe this is a part of it. I should ask these questions. Is this important? I don't know. I sort of laugh at the story. I'm like, is this something I should be chasing?
Oh, I
they
think
were also
would
showing
change.
The Yankees and the Mets game cut-ins. They were showing, and sometimes live. So that may have affected it, which I thought was cool. They were, because the Mets played early, and then once the game started, it was the Yankees, and they kept showing either, hey, this home run just happened, or live cut-ins to keep the crowd engaged, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah. All right, Jaden Daniels, is he a legitimate MVP candidate?
He's in the mix. I don't know that it's going to hold up. I mean, they've got some tougher games coming up here, and you're going to have some guys that are going to emerge here. I think Joe Burrow. Well, this hurt. Joe Burrow had some really good numbers, despite the Bengals being 1-4.
Sure.
Now, this last game that they won, it was not the greatest offensive output, although he played really well. So, I don't know that Jaden Daniels is going to hold up there. I don't have a vote. If I did at this point, I'd have a hard time not giving it to Josh Allen right now.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, Amari Cooper may help. Josh Allen's case may help his stats. The problem with that team,
It's a great trade.
it's a great trade because it didn't cost them a lot of money.
Right.
Which helped the Browns, by the way. They got more draft pick compensation because it didn't cost a lot of money. Whereas if a team had to take on a huge salary with Cooper, like he was $20 million, but they knocked it down to like $1 and change, and they paid most of that already, so it was like $800,000, something like that. If it was the full $20 million, it'd be like, well, we'll give you a 6th, 7th round pick to take on this salary. But because the Browns had already done that, that helped them. So it helped in that regard. It also helped he'd be a high volume guy for you, and they don't have one. And so they've got Keon Coleman, which is good. He's played well. Looks like he's going to be a guy, but he's not your high volume guy. And you've got a bunch of other veterans who were never high volume guys. He threw a bunch of veterans. But I give Brandon Beane credit because he said, we'll do this. And then if we feel like we don't have enough, we'll do something in season. And he's already done it. And so this was a team who, when they've been behind in games, it's like they're not built that way. And Josh Allen is a guy that can get you out of some holes, but they weren't built that way from a receiver standpoint. And now that really helps a lot by getting Amari Cooper.
All right, NFL trade deadline. It's coming up. It's coming up fast, November 5th.
Yeah.
How aggressive do you think the Lions will be with the Aiden Hutchinson injury?
There's not a lot out there. Like I saw people talked about the Hassan Reddick one, and credit Josina Anderson had a great nugget about if the Jets trade him to an NFC team, they now owe the Giants a 2nd round pick, which I don't know how that would work out if they owed both the Giants and the Raiders 2nd round picks. Another question I should ask.
Mm-hmm.
So they won't trade him in the NFC. So it's now you're limited to the AFC. So I think that's going to hurt a little bit. There's other, there's the Myles Garrett's. There's the Myles Garrett's.
What about Max Crosby?
I don't think so. I think. First of all, we know the relationship between him and Antonio Pierce, and I know Antonio Pierce would be just devastated by that.
Yeah.
And I also know that they pushed back on the Davante Adams trade before the season because they wanted to make sure he had some talent on the roster. Like they couldn't have him completely fall on his face. So, to give up Max Crosby, that would be a tough one. But this team's going to have to reload and get ready to rock and roll for next year in order to keep Max happy and not asking for a trade and, able to compete before it's too late in his career.
The Tom Brady now being a part owner of the Raiders. How does what are you going to I'm going to ask you?
It's just the weirdest thing to me.
But how can he be an analyst and then be an owner?
You're preaching to the choir here.
He's going to have to give up the Fox gig, isn't he? Isn't the league going to make him give that
No,
up?
they would have done that already. They would have done that already. And they say he can call Raiders games too.
That is unbelievable. You can't have that. Come on.
And my opinion on this changed in the last day. Because the Raiders pumped this out there. And they had a video of him walking in with the music playing and all this stuff. And it's if you're going to be a small minority owner to get your feet wet and maybe down the line you want to be majority controlling owner of a franchise, fine. If you're going to keep the Fox gig, which potentially could help you pay for that, by the way, because you're going to bank $400 million or whatever it is.
Yeah, right.
But they really and he leaned into it too, right? So if you're going to do that, it's kind of like, in our business, some people, depending on the roles that they're in, can be fans, right?
Sure.
But you don't want to do it too hard sometimes because you want to still keep the credibility. But some people really lean into it, and I go, see, I'm not a fan of, legitimately, I'm not a fan of anybody. I can't be, it's impossible, whatever. But some people really lean into it. I'm like, if you do that, you're going to get the blowback from 31 other teams. Whereas if you want to maintain, you could do it privately, keep it quiet. But, it's sort of along the same lines here. So I thought yesterday when that really got pushed hard, I was kind of like, don't you want to kind of that didn't help with people who feel the way that you feel, Puck?
You think I don't know I can't remember who said it, but do you think he'd go after Bill Belichick?
I mean, I think that Mark Davis is going to be influenced by what Tom Brady's going to say. Yeah. So I mean, the first question is going to be, do they retain Antonio Pierce? Which if you fire Pierce off of this year, You're just, you're just saying you feel that way. You don't have anything. Like, because you took Davante Adams off the field. I mean, they're scrapping right now, and they're going to win some games along the way, like the game in Baltimore. And they'll lose some games like the game that they had at home against Carolina. And they're going to be that kind of team the rest of the way. You got to rule it incomplete in his first year, I think. So I don't know if Brady's going to convince him that, like, hey, this isn't the guy, and I can. Who knows? Maybe.
All right. Before we let you go, I want to celebrate. This is an important week for one of your colleagues. It's like an anniversary for one of your colleagues who I know that you love and that you adore. But of course, I like to call this the rap sheet week.
I had an interesting talk with offensive coordinator Tom. Did you guys just see that football? I saw it. Anyway,
one of my favorite videos of all time.
I had an interesting talk with offensive. Talk with offensive coordinator.
I mean, that hits him pretty. Hold on, watch this. I mean, God, Mike, that hit
offensive coordinator Tom.
That hits him hard.
Did you guys just see that football?
Hold on.
I mean, my God.
I don't know that I've ever seen that clip as long as you showed it. The ball boy then comes in. Hey, can I have that ball? Show that again. Like, he didn't even check on him.
Hold on. Yeah.
I saw it. Anyway.
Hold on. We got to get
Did you guys just see that football? I saw it.
First of all, the suit's too big.
Hey, can I get that ball?
I had an interesting talk with offensive coordinator Tom Clements a couple weeks ago.
Can I get the ball? Yeah, that happened. That was yesterday, October 16th. I went 2012, I believe.
Yeah. So 12 years later, still no long-term effects.
Yeah.
I don't think it hit him. He also said, by the way,
hit him pretty good.
It didn't hit him direct. It hit the light and then hit him. So it was a ricochet.
I'll say this, you guys and live radio, and I've done live TV, like something like that happens, you can get real rattled. I thought he handled it great. Live TV like that.
I've never seen the rest of it, by the way. I got to see the rest of it. Did he finish the hit? And actually, he talked to what did Tom Clements say? I got to ask him that. Do you remember what Tom Clements told you?
I don't know. You do got to finish it. Like we got to find like the finished product of it. Who do you like tonight? I mean, do you think the Broncos can win by more than 4?
It's 4 now.
It's 3. They're favored by 3.
Oh, which.
4
honestly, well, look, they're down Pat Surtain and their right tackle, but it looks like they're getting Mike McGlinchey back. And the Saints are just,
ravaged.
I feel so bad for Dennis Allen right now because
they're a pretty good team.
I don't know if they were going to be as good as they were the first 2 weeks of the season, but they're not this bad. And but that is why that was one of the teams to me that I said, because what I've learned over the course of covering this league is you have to look at who's got depth, right? Because everybody's going to have injuries. So who's got the depth to sustain it? And a lot of times it's rookies that you're not fully aware of yet. So you can't. So I'll ask around the league, like, hey, who do you think has depth? And when I say who doesn't have depth, that was one of the teams that came up. And I think we're seeing that now. I know we're seeing that right now. Did I know we'd see it to this extent? I have no idea. But yeah, this is a situation where, like, Alvin Kamara is going to have 6 touchdowns tonight. One of those games like he had before. That's the only way they win this game. I like Denver.
All right, you like Denver.
I like Denver, and I like Seattle this weekend.
Okay, you like the Seahawks.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, it feels like this would be a game. They've lost 3 straight. People are doubting them. Finger pointing.
Atlanta's flying high. You know. They're due to come back down a little bit. Seattle does a good job of flying. They are still under Mike McDonald doing the fly on Friday to get there a day earlier to get adjusted, which I think is smart. And they play well when they come east. So yeah, I like them. A
lot of connections in this game. You got Michael Penix, the backup quarterback, of course, was at Washington. Ryan Grubb is offensive coordinator. Jimmy Lake is the defensive coordinator for Atlanta. Reason he has that job because he punched a player in the face at Washington. I mean, it's unreal. It's just, all the connections to this game should be good. All right. You're the best. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Mike.
You got it, pal.
There he is, Mike Garofolo, NFL Network. Again, all brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. Honesty, fairness, integrity. Contact Jamie Hartley at 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island, perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends, and catch the game. Enjoy the Northwest summers and falls now. I should probably fix that. The falls on their outdoor patio. Check out Zogs on Facebook and Instagram for their new hours. In case you came into this late, of course, Mike Garofolo and every guest we have will be podcast up later on YouTube. Just search Puck Sports. Also up on Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, at pucksports.com. All right, welcome back to the show. It's Puck Sports. We've reconnected, hopefully. We've got all the platforms that are back up and rolling on Twitter and YouTube and the Puck Sports mobile app. Again, my apologies. The technical problems just have been a little much this week, especially streaming live on the show. So apologies. I'm sure the Mike Garofolo interview, for at least those watching on Twitter, cut out probably, 20 minutes in, halfway in. Again, that's all up. We'll all be podcasted up on YouTube, there on the YouTube channel, Puck Sports, and then also on Apple and Spotify and pucksports.com. So, again, apologies for that. We are back up and running. Andy Bunker is going to be joining us top of the hour. To talk Falcons and to talk the Seattle Seahawks, which are going to have, as we wrapped up there with Garofolo, which is going to have great, just, Northwest connections, right? You've got Michael Penix and Ryan Grubb. You've got the Jimmy Lake connection and all of that. So, again, we're back streaming there on Twitter. And for those that were on YouTube, apologies on that one. We had to just reconnect there. And then the Puck Sports mobile app. I promise we'll get this figured out. Again, top of the hour, Andy Bunker from 92.9 The Game in Atlanta will join us. We'll talk about the preview of the Falcons and Seahawks coming up on Sunday. A reminder, bottom of the hour, we're going to have Hey What the Puck, which is brought to you by Restoration One. Hey, real quickly in the headlines we were running down, we talked earlier in the show before Garofolo joined us. We talked about the Jamal Adams release. No, he's not coming back. All right, I'm just being a smart ass. All right. I like to be a smartass with it. One, because I just want to see how people get so upset about it. We also touched in on the Seahawks offensive line issues. And we had talked about how PFF, in terms of pressure rate, has rated them just terribly. And they have been terrible. And it's just amazing just how poor they really have been. I knew they were poor. I was stunned looking at some of their numbers today, just how poor they actually have been. I want to touch in on the Dan Lanning thing right before we get Andy Bunker to jump on. But also one thing that I'd mentioned at the start of the show that we're doing, big thanks to Reggie Frederick and Chalet Bull, was we're continuing talking to Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times beat reporter, covers the Mariners. You guys all know that. We are talking to him throughout the offseason, and each week we're picking a different storyline to cover there with Ryan. And yesterday when he joined us, we talked about Cal Raleigh, the future of Cal Raleigh. And the whole show yesterday was about Cal, and can they bring him back? Can they afford to bring him back? What is it going to cost?
You could argue he was the most productive player this year.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, most valuable, most productive. He might not be the most talented, though we're talking about a guy leading baseball in runners thrown out in consecutive seasons, a guy that's hit 28 or more home runs in the last 3 seasons and has delivered most of your clutch hits. I don't know if you can measure anything more valuable than that. Cal is this committed to winning every day that he's beat to hell. He's going in every day at noon for a 7:00 game so he can get cold treatment, the cold bath, the hot bath, all these things to get his body ready to play that night. I think it's a fair expectation to ask the team and the ownership group to have the similar commitment to winning.
Which is true. And I also just noticed that apparently I'm sponsored by the Tacoma Rainiers. I just love the Rainiers hat. They have the best hats and the best logo in the business. He's right about Cal. In case you missed it, we go 30, 35 minutes yesterday just talking about Cal Raleigh. How much he's meant to the team, how valuable he is to the team. What is it going to cost to retain him? Does he want to be here? The more and more this drags on with Cal Raleigh of him not signing an extension. In fact, as Divish said in the show yesterday, there's been no talk of an extension. According to him, that he hasn't heard anything. How much does that raise a red flag with ownership and the front office? That they haven't even approached him yet? According to Divish, at least he hasn't heard anything. There's been no rumblings. There's been no whispers about them approaching him about an extension. Again, that maybe they have, and maybe those conversations, have just been directly with Dipoto, and his agent Scott Boras. But for the fact that hasn't leaked at all, if they did, normally that stuff would leak. That's concerning. And I wonder for a guy, and we talked about it yesterday, I wonder for a guy who has shown that he will speak out and he will say what's on his mind, about the organization and about the direction of the organization. I wonder, does that make ownership feel hesitant to give him big money? Hey, if we give you $120 million, $140 million over 9-10 years, can we trust you? I mean, there's nothing that he has ever said that's out of line, by the way. Nothing. Nothing that he has said is out of line. And we know that as fans, but ownership doesn't. See, that they don't like that, and they've never liked that. Jeff Nelson years ago, I'll bring Jeff Nelson back on. He can tell the story. Years ago when Jeff Nelson was traded, when he spoke out about the organization not doing enough, they traded him. I don't need that. We don't need that type of that. We don't need that at all. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I honestly can't remember now. Someone's got to help me out in the chat. I can't remember. Remember when Cal, said, called out the ownership and just called out the front office, and then he had to have a talking to and had to apologize, and services kind of ripping him in public. What the heck? You don't do that. There was nothing that he said that was out of line. So I think maybe there's something to that as well, that maybe ownership doesn't want to pay him. And then, I think the desire of where does Cal Raleigh want to finish his career? He's an East Coast guy. Ryan said he loves it out here. He's got a second home in Arizona. He loves it there as well. His family's back in Carolina. He's had a strong desire. He grew up loving the Red Sox. His dad loves the Red Sox, and he loved Jason Varitek. So I think the pull of maybe playing there eventually will get Cal Raleigh. And I think as this goes on longer, I just think that the likelihood he stays in Seattle is probably slim to none, which is unfortunate because I agree with what Ryan said yesterday. And I go back and watch it. It was just a real good 35 minutes on one thing, and Cal Raleigh, he's the best catcher this organization's ever had. And that's no disrespect to Dan Wilson, and maybe Dan Wilson would even say that he is, but he is. He's the best catcher they've ever had. In fact, and he works so well with these young pitchers. He just does such a great job. He's just everything you want there in a team leader. Before Andy Bunker jumps on to give us the opponent preview, Falcons and Seahawks coming up on Sunday. Though I want to revisit the Dan Lanning thing here real quick, because we talked about Dan Lanning on Tuesday with Canzano, and then they, with less, was it 24 hours later, on Monday, where he basically admits, hey, I had 12 men on the field on purpose. And he had that sheepish little grin on his face of where he wanted to kind of let everybody know just how smart he was, that he outsmarted Ryan Day, that he knew the rules, and he took advantage of this little loophole in the 12 men on the field, and the time runs off. You get the penalty, but you don't get the time back. And then the NCAA within 24, 48 hours changes the rule. No, it's done. It's changed it. Now the teams can elect to put the time back on the clock. You can call it the Lanning rule. And I'd said on Monday or whenever, when they started talking about changing the rule, like if you're Dan Lanning, why would you even admit to it? Like, it's just so stupid. Don't admit to it. Somebody ask you, hey, did you do that on purpose? No, we didn't do it on purpose. And, obviously at the end of the day, this is what you do in the Puckett crisis firm. Obviously, at the end of the day, it benefited us, but that was a brain fart on our end. And, we got saved. Unfortunately, it didn't hurt us, but no, we didn't do that on purpose to run time off the clock. We had miscommunication. It's an important down. We're trying to get the right personnel out there. And, we unfortunately had too many guys on the field. And that's on me as a head coach. Can't have that happen. I'm the leader of the football team. That's what you say. If you really did do it on purpose. Because what are you gaining? Because now this little loophole, it's gone. You can't use it anymore if you were so smart. And Andy Bunker, who will join us, and Andy, of course, is from Seattle, grew up here, and worked on a bunch of radio stations here in town, and then he's moved on. Now he's doing a show in Atlanta, and he's going to join us to preview the Falcons. We are privately, we're just texting back and forth, and he's like, you know what? I don't think he knew. I think he's full of shit. I think that he screwed up. But then when he found out, right then and there, that it helped him, and then after the fact, the next day or into the night and all day Sunday, when he found out that, it benefited them, then he took all the credit. And I'm like, God, you might be right. You might actually be right. So now I'm kind of convinced that was the case. Speaking of Andy Bunker, let's get to our opponent preview. Andy Bunker, of course, does the radio show in Atlanta, Georgia. Andy's at 92.9 The Game. You've joined in portrait. You got to flip your phone around, sir. You're like, there you go.
No,
it's okay.
No, wait, you want me to have it like this?
Yeah, let's go like that. Oh, you got the Sonic sweatshirt on. Good for you.
Yeah, I thought I'd do that for you.
You look great.
Thank you.
Hey, before we get Andy Bunker, 92.9 The Game in Atlanta, Georgia, outstanding radio host there, voted by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution as the #1 talk show radio host this week. Congratulations, Andy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Nothing like the newspaper that no one reads anymore.
You and I were texting back and forth, and before we get into the Falcons. And I think now I believe your theory on Dan Lanning. You think Dan Lanning actually doesn't know the rule, that Dan Lanning screwed up, saw the aftermath of it, and then now is taking credit for being smart, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they accidentally sent the 12th guy onto the field, which happens sometimes in sports or in football. They realized the way people were reacting to it, and then they were like, wait a minute, this is great. Like, if we just say we did it on purpose, we look like geniuses, and we don't have to own the fact that we made a very potentially costly mistake, again, as he often has since he's been the head coach at Oregon. It didn't bite him in the ass, luckily, because Ryan Day is an even worse end of game coach than he is. And now he comes out looking like a genius. It's brilliant. He was one non-pass interference call away from having it happen again, which is what has happened in all of the close games that they've been in. But instead, they called pass interference. They go out of field goal range. Will Howard brain fart, and now he looks like Vince Lombardi. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you have convinced me now. I think you've convinced me more than ever.
Cards on the table here. I'll say anything to discredit anything good that happens for Oregon. So I really didn't like that they won that game. It was really going to be fun for them to blow another close one with some of his gambling on going for it on fourth down and going for two and all of that kind of stuff. But they got one, so good for them.
All right, and again, Andy also is a proud graduate of the University of Washington who is tagged Jedd Fisch as Fish Tits. That's his nickname for Jedd. And he is one of the very rare and few Husky fans who will at least acknowledge not sold on Jedd Fisch, where others like to convince themselves they are.
I would like to be. It's just it's too early, man. They're 4-3, and in my opinion, they lost a couple games early that at least they could have won. I won't say should have, because I know that, Washington State won the game, so whatever. But they could have beat Rutgers for sure, and they didn't. Now they got stomped out by Iowa. There anything I can say about that? They went to Iowa and got destroyed. So that kind of was what it was. But yeah, I don't know. 4-3 is not very good. So what am I supposed to be doing? Lying to myself like I am about Oregon?
All right, let's get into the Falcons Seahawks coming up on Sunday. 4-2, Atlanta. They opened up the season with an 8-point loss to the Steelers, and then they lost to the Chiefs, which was a good game, and then they've rattled off 3 straight wins since then to get to 4-2. After 6 games, the Atlanta Falcons are what? Who are they?
They look like a pretty good offense. They figured it out, I think, with Kirk Cousins. The game plan that they used against the Steelers week 1, I think in hindsight makes sense because they really wanted to protect him and have an extra tight end in there. And they had him in the shotgun and they ran out of the pistol quite a bit. And I think a lot of that was designed to try to keep TJ Watt neutralized. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. It got Kirk Cousins away from what he does best, which is play action and try to use the run game. And they also just looked really rusty early because no one played a snap in the preseason. And they've since admitted that's part of what it was, which is really frustrating because all summer we talk about, well, maybe they should play in the preseason with all these new pieces and new offensive coordinator and new quarterback. And everyone tells you you're crazy if you suggest that they play in the preseason. And then a month into the season, they're all like, yeah, we probably should have played in the preseason. But then next year when we bring it up again, we'll be told we're crazy again. So that's a fun process. But they've played better the last couple of weeks, 36 2 weeks ago in overtime against Tampa and a nice win. And then, I mean, they beat up on the Panthers, which a lot of people are going to do last week and scored 38. But the offense looks good. The defense is interesting because they've got some pieces. They got 2 really good safeties. And they've, Grady Jarrett is a solid defensive lineman in the interior. And they made a move to go out and trade for Matt Judon in training camp. And it just hasn't made an impact yet. They've got 5 sacks in 6 games. They're the worst pass rush in the NFL. So, you let Geno sit back there, man, with time. It's a bad recipe.
Yeah. What do we think? I mean, offensively, they got a lot of damn weapons, man. I mean, it's just everywhere. And just potent. I mean, you got Bijan Robinson, you talk about Tyler Algier and the wide receivers. I think for Seattle's perspective, maybe since Detroit, this is going to be the best offense they've ever seen. Yeah.
When they get it going, they're pretty fun to watch, and they do have a lot of weapons. It's weird. It's kind of game to game. Last week, they had a really good run game going. They went for 200 yards on the ground against the Panthers. Bijan and Algier each had about 100. Algier actually had more carries than Bijan Robinson did. He was just more effective, and they kind of fed him. 2 weeks ago against Tampa, they could throw it. They passed for 500 yards. And I think between Pitts, London, and Darnell Mooney, who they signed from Chicago in the offseason, they had 30 receptions between the 3 of them. So that was going 2 weeks ago. They haven't had a game where they've gotten both things going and had great balance yet. So, I mean, obviously that's something that they'll be trying to do on Sunday. But, yeah, no shortage of weapons. It just – you never know who's going to do what. Because there was a game 3 weeks ago where Kyle Pitts didn't have a catch, which is crazy. Guy was the 4th overall pick. Didn't have a catch. So he's been better the last couple of weeks, but that's something people here are watching very closely.
What's wrong with the defense? I mean, obviously a familiar name with Jimmy Lake running it, but what is the biggest issue?
I mean, it's personnel. I mean, it's, they've got pretty decent linebackers, and I think those guys do a good job. Like we talked about, the safeties are good, and there's some guys on the D line that are solid, but they just don't have good pass rushers. Like they've drafted poorly at the position. They haven't really signed many free agents over the years to address it. The guy they drafted actually this year was Braylon Trice out of Washington. He got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So he would be helping if he was on the team. But when you go back the last handful of years, they got a guy named Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State in the second round a couple of years ago. Hasn't really done anything. Lorenzo Carter is a guy that they signed, the Georgia Bulldog. Hasn't really done much since he's been here. And it's just they just don't have that guy. And Judon's good, but with kind of nothing else going on the other side, teams can kind of key in on him. So it's been a long time. Like they haven't had the Falcons have had a bad pass rush every year since I've covered the team. I've almost been here for 10 years. They had the 1 year where they went to Super Bowl and Vic Beasley had 15 sacks, but that clearly was an aberration. And since then, I mean, they've been the worst team in the league getting to the quarterback almost every year.
Hey, Andy, how was Kirk Cousins kind of welcomed himself into town? I mean, I think that there was, he was a highly priced free agent. He comes in, he's been a real productive quarterback, obviously, in this league. And then comes, draft night, and the surprise, they draft Michael Penix, who is, they just a complete opposite quarterback of Kirk Cousins. Here's a guy that has maybe one of the more beautiful arms that you can see in college and the NFL. He can flick it 60, 70 yards with ease. And I would assume that a lot of fans were probably excited about him to see him, potentially come in. And then you're like, Kirk Cousins is like, hey man, what I just signed here. Why are you drafting a guy? Why are you drafting my replacement? How has Cousins handled all of that, which can be a major distraction for him?
I think he's handled it great. I mean, that's the one of the things about him in his career is, even though he's been in the league for a really long time, made a ton of money, he's kind of always had that somebody's going to take my job situation, right? Like, and he's at Michigan State, and they bring in Nick Foles. He didn't get drafted to be the quarterback in Washington. RG3 gets hurt, and they never really bought into him. I mean, they franchised him, but never signed him. And then he goes to Minnesota, and they told him this last offseason, like, hey, we'd love to have you back, but we're going to draft a quarterback. So he leaves. And then the exact same thing happens to him here. He didn't know that was going to happen. They called him, I guess, like when they were on the clock. We're like, hey, we're thinking about taking Penix. He's like, well, damn. All right. That's kind of part of the reason why I left Minnesota, because they're trying to draft my replacement. So that part of it was pretty weird. It was pretty clunky. Those things don't have anything to do with each other, though. Like in reality, like if you can analyze Kirk Cousins and what you think of him as a quarterback, it kind of got muddied by drafting Michael Penix. The same thing with Michael Penix. Like, you could be excited that he's here, but it's unfortunate because you're not going to get to watch him play for a couple of years. As for ingratiating himself, he's played good. So he's played good for the last couple of weeks, so now people are happy. When he's dancing with the crowd and doing the swag surf and like quoting rappers in the in his press conferences, that stuff goes over a lot better when he's throwing for 500 yards. So no one really cares about anything other than if he plays good. And he's been playing pretty good for a couple of weeks. So now people are, calling him Kirko Chains and all that kind of stuff. Week 1, when he threw zero, when he looked terrible and people were worried about whether or not he was still hurt, no one said anything nice about him. So, yeah, I mean, he's played good, and so it's fine.
Well, he's just an interesting character, right? I mean, he's like a minivan dad.
Yeah. No, he's a dork. There's no way to put it. Like, as a dorky dad, I can relate. He's not cool particularly, but he's comfortable in his own skin, and his teammates love him. Like, that's the thing about it that's kind of fun, is like, you don't have to be anything other than genuine and good at your job in that business, and people are going to like you. So, but you're right. I mean, it's the least Atlanta quarterback that you could possibly have.
Well, that's why I think it's fascinating. And again, I'm not bringing race into this as this is some negative thing. But I just think it's interesting that you have Kirk Cousins, who is this nerdy white guy driving a minivan, who doesn't have a big arm, and then here comes Michael Penix, young black kid with just an arm, and it's indoors. You look at the Atlanta fan base, you look at people that live in Atlanta, it's much more black than it would be white, and so you could see like a natural pull for fans there to want to support like the young black quarterback, right? Over the nerdy wearing glasses driving a minivan quarterback. And I was fascinated how Cousins would deal with that, because that could go either way, right?
Yeah, again, all that matters is if he plays good. If he plays good, none of that stuff comes into play. If he doesn't play well, then of course people are going to be calling for the backup. But what they did is this amazing, like, they condensed the last 20 years of sports radio debate in this city into one offseason, where Michael Vick obviously was this supernova star celebrity, transcended the sport in this city at that time, looking the way that he looked in like TI music videos, playing how he played, was just such I wasn't obviously here then, but people talk about it as this, like, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime moment as a sports fan that they had. And then it ends the way that it ends, obviously. Matt Ryan is here almost immediately after that. Very different type of guy, different looking guy, different style of play, put into a really difficult situation to succeed in because of who he was coming in after and all of that in the city. And Matt Ryan's going to Hall of Fame probably.
Yeah.
So he handled it perfectly. But you could still right now, if you wanted to, like if it was a slow day in the summer, you could open up the phones and say, if you're starting the franchise right now, who would you rather have, prime Matt Ryan or prime Mike Vick, and have calls for 5 hours. So what they did in one offseason was sign the next closest guy to Matt Ryan in Kirk Cousins.
Sure.
Draft a black left-handed guy named Michael, and put him in the same locker room. And when they did it, I was like, they just made our lives so easy for the next 5 years. Because if they nail it and they're right, and Kirk Cousins plays good until he needs to retire, and then Penix takes over and they have the heir apparent, great. Like if it works out the way that it worked in Green Bay for all these years, awesome. Perfect. That's what everybody wants. But if it doesn't, it's the most baked in sports radio debate, whatever thing of all time. So thank you to the Falcons for the ratings bonuses.
Has Penix done many interviews or press conferences or anything? I mean, normally you don't hear from the backup quarterback, but I'm just curious how he's handled all this.
He's handled it great. I mean, again, like that's the nice thing about all these guys too. Cousins, like we talked about, Penix, like they've been very professional about all of it. And I think everyone kind of gets the deal, which has been great. It's funny that you asked that because today, I just got off the air. And every day we do Falcons stuff and use Falcons audio from the previous day. Today was the first day of the whole season where there's been a Michael Penix audio clip on my cut sheet. And I was like, what Penix was available yesterday? Like what was he talking? And it was just like what he's learning from Kirk Cousins. So it wasn't anything particularly interesting or useful, but today was the first day I actually saw an audio bite from Michael Penix all season.
Well, and I think it's also interesting, just like how is he helping the Falcons prepare for the game on Sunday? I mean, he's gonna know Ryan Grubb's offense better than anyone on that staff.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit today too. We had Jimmy Lake on today and talked to him about what's going on with the defense and all of that. But he brought that up. He was like, Penix played for Grubb in Washington. And I was like, yeah, I know that. I know all that. I know.
Does he not know that you are a Husky fan?
Nah, I didn't bring it up. I mean, what am I going to say to Jimmy Lake about his time at Washington? There's nothing.
You had a perfect to ask him, hey man, if you don't hit that kid, you're not the defensive coordinator for the Falcons right now. You know what else doesn't happen? Kalen DeBoer is not the head coach of Washington, nor do you play in the national championship game a year ago. That slap that got him fired, which was ridiculous, changed the course of your alma mater, my friend.
It changed the course. I did get into that. I didn't get into it with him. I wasn't going to say, hey, had you not slapped that kid, then the Huskies wouldn't have made the national championship.
Do you think about that at night, Jimmy?
Well, I more wanted to ask him what the hell happened against Montana, but I didn't bring that up.
Oh.
I did talk about it. I was like, people probably don't know or care about this, but whatever. I'm gonna do it. I was like, this is football chaos theory 101. Like, Jimmy Lake does that. Kalen DeBoer takes over, brings Penix with him. Ryan Grubb's the guy. Now Penix and Grubb and Lake are all going to be there in the building on Sunday here in Atlanta. Meanwhile, Kalen DeBoer is coaching at Alabama and has a huge game against Tennessee, and Sark's at Texas playing Georgia. So it all comes back to Washington, really.
It just really does all come back to your school.
It really does.
Yeah. Well, you look great. You got the Sonic shirt on. You got Falcons blood now running through you. Thanks for doing this. Is 2 weeks in a row we've had you on. Oh, well, before you go, because we had you on last week about the relief effort, raising money for Hurricane Helene, and the relief effort in the Carolinas where your wife is from, and her county was just devastated. I saw that you eclipsed 10,000. I think you've eclipsed. What are you up to? 12,000 now?
Yeah, about $12,500. We're gonna keep the. I don't know. I'll probably keep the link open. People want to keep giving money. That's great. We're going to keep talking about it on the air through the Falcons and Seahawks game on Sunday. But
cool.
We got over the goal and kept rolling. Had a huge donation yesterday from one listener, which is
awesome.
And thanks to everybody who listens to your show and watches your show for all the donations that people gave out last week too. It's really, really cool to see, how many different communities and relationships and stuff that I've been able to develop that led to helping back to that one as well. I did want to say one thing, because you have your Rainiers hat on.
All right, it's 2 days in a row I've gone Tacoma Rainiers.
And I have a Tacoma Rainiers hat as well that I wear because I got to take my kids to school really early in the morning. I come back home and get ready and stuff. So I just throw on my Rainiers hat and take them. I wish I would have worn it because I have the other one though. I have the blue one with the red R. But I have it. I bought it right before my son was born. My son is like 1.5 now, but right before he was born, I bought it because his middle name, you may not know this, is Rainier.
Well, how about that? I did not know that. That's a hell of a middle name.
Jack Rainier Bunker. Yeah, we had to have homage to the home state.
God, I love that. You know what? The Rainier, it's the best logo in sports. It's the best gear in sports. It's the best. Absolutely the best.
I can't wait. We'll wait about 20 years to do this. But someday, drink a Rainier with Jack Rainier, that's going to be pretty good.
Oh, yes, sir. Well, we can start earlier than that. 15.
He might, but if he's like me, he'll probably start with Milwaukee's Best in his friend's garage, something like that. But also, you can call it. It's a built-in drink. You get a shot of Jack and a Rainier Tall Boy. It's a Jack Rainier.
Oh, I can't believe you did that on purpose. Unbelievable.
The most alcoholic thing you can do is just name your son after you want to drink.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, enjoy it on Sunday. Thanks for doing it as always. Just keep up all the great work, bud. Thanks for doing it again.
Thanks for having me. Anytime.
You got it. There he is, Andy Bunker, 92.9, the game in Atlanta, as we talk all things opponent preview there with Andy, the Falcons and the Seahawks coming up there on Sunday. And again, it's we said this earlier in the show, but it is going to be an absolute shootout. This is not going to be a defensive game at all. This is going to be a game in which, I don't know, it'd be the 40s. It's who has the ball last. Both offenses should be able to move the ball. Atlanta's defense is not great. They don't get after the quarterback. Maybe this is good news for an offensive line that has certainly struggled in protecting. And this would be probably a moment where the offense has, it's fluttered a little bit, right? It's been up and down, hasn't been consistent. It's had its moments, and then it's looked terrible. Maybe this is a nice breakout game, again for Ryan Grubb in this offense. And a lot of accountability being talked about here in the last few days from their offense, from Geno, from DK Metcalf, and all those guys. So this would be a good bounce back offensively. Defensively, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna be able to do. I mean, this is as talented as an offense that they have seen. Maybe you could even make an argument this is more talented than Detroit. They've got 2 running backs like Detroit did. Robinson can damage you out of the backfield. Mooney's a threat. London's a stud. Kyle Pitts, sometimes you overrate him, but he's a playmaker. Ray McLeod is a baller as well. And then Cousins is just efficient, gets the ball out on time, makes the right decisions. Just does. Just a pro. Not flashy, but a pro. And the fact is the Seahawks are banged up in the secondary. Jenkins being out. They had to sign, a kid off the practice squad. You've got Trey Brown banged up. You've got Reek Woolen banged up. Yeah, it's going to be a shootout. They're not going to win it defensively. Now, having said all that, what's going to happen? The defense is going to play great. And they're going to win a defensive game. That's what's going to happen. All right, before we wrap it up here on the Daily Puck Drop, it's all brought to you by, we do the Hey What the Puck, which is all brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle, your restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. It's locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. This has nothing to do with sports, even though he did this for a sporting event. Actually, it does have something to do with sports because you see this guy a lot because teams bring him in to like training camp or whatever, just baseball teams. A lot of sports teams bring him in. It's the Oz the Mentalist guy. Do you guys, everyone know who that is? This like mentalist, magician guy that teams bring in, and he pulls off this shit like, hey, I know what you're thinking. No, you don't. What number are you thinking of? Well, I'm thinking of 4. You're thinking of 4. And you're like, I don't know how he does. I don't know how he does this. And obviously, it's not like he's not reading people's minds, but I want to know how he does it. So this one clip I want to play is leading up to the Ryder Cup. It was a preview of the Ryder Cup with Keegan Bradley and Luke Donald, who were the captains of the Ryder Cup team. And so he got them together. And he does something, and again, I just want to know how he does this. How does he pull off this trick? Because I don't get it. And I want someone in our chat to explain to me how he does this.
Do me a favor, hold out your hands. Bring your right hand on top of your left hand, slow, and cup it. I want you to imagine that you suddenly travel to any golf course in the world. Can you see yourself there right now?
Yes.
All right. And I see it in your mind. I told you, you know when your hands are empty. You can literally feel it. But picture yourself where you feel the weight of a golf ball. You feel all of those little dimples in the golf ball, and you're going to almost feel this happen. Tell us, what course did you pick? What do you imagine? Say it. Which is that course?
Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach. And right now, you feel the weight. You can feel it start happening. You're not going to believe this. Slow, slow. Look what's inside your hand now. Open it up, and show them. Turn that ball around. Look at the other side. Where is that? Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me how he did it. How is Keegan Bradley in on it? Because if you go back and watch the beginning, you'll see the camera kind of go away from Keegan Bradley. Is Bradley in on it? So here we go.
Okay. I want you to imagine.
Okay, so he covers. So are you telling me like right there is now like the ball being put into Keegan Bradley's hand? Is that the trick? So Bradley's in on it. I mean, look at all these other people. They're all standing around. If he was in on the trick, they would see Keegan Bradley be handed a ball. Would they not? wouldn't they be saying, well, that's not, I mean, you handed him the ball. So where does the ball come in? When does this son of a bitch put the ball in his hand? Without Keegan Bradley knowing he's putting the ball in. For those listening, go back and watch it on the podcast. How does this guy do it?
You feel all of those little dimples in the golf ball.
He's got his hands closed.
Tell us what course.
Okay, he puts his hands on.
Say it. Which is that course?
Are you saying he does it right then?
And right now, you feel the weight. You can feel it start happening.
How does he do it?
You're not going to believe this. Slow. Look what's inside your hand now. Open it up, and show them. Turn that ball around. Look at the other side. Where is that? Wow.
Yeah, Pebble Beach. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know how he does it. I want someone to tell me and tell me, give me a theory on how he does it. I watch this guy all the time and the stuff he does, and it blows me away. I want to know the method to this guy's black voodoo magic, what he's doing, because this isn't normal. It's not normal what he's able to do. But I need theories. I need people that are smarter than me because I'm an idiot. All right, that's it. That's a fun one. That's a Hey, What the Puck, all brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. North Seattle franchise. Again, apologies for the connections earlier. And I know probably the YouTube stream still had the same issues that it's been having the last couple of days with the audio. Again, we're fixing it. It will be fixed hopefully soon, and we'll get it rectified. But those who stuck around on that stream, also on the Puck Sports mobile app, thank you. Also there on Twitter, we appreciate you all watching. Thank you so much. Even when we dropped, you came back. And again, all this today's show, the Daily Puck Drop, will be up on YouTube, and then we'll of course have the individual interviews there with Mike Garofolo and Andy Bunker on our opponent preview up there as well. For the video on the audio stream, Apple, Spotify, any podcast platform that you like to use, it will be available up there as well. And of course at pucksports.com, where we put all of our shows every single day. And again, other content up there right now. The Old Crimson Cougars podcast is up. Also, Cougs Corner, my conversation with Kyle Williams. Fantastic. Love Kyle Williams. Outstanding wide receiver there for the Cougs. But he was a real fun interview. Coming up tomorrow on the show, it's a Friday. Jim will be back with us. We'll talk to our handicapper, Troy Wins, tomorrow. Get the latest picks there on the season, therefore the NFL and college football season as well. And Chris Egan from King 5 will join us as well. Oh, and I should remind everyone that is playing in the Puck to Picker Pick'em pool, that is we haven't talked about it in a few weeks. And again, whoever wins this is going to win a trip for 2 to Las Vegas, courtesy of TroyWins.com. All you got to do is pick the games against the spread. You can't join now. Well, you could join now, but you wouldn't be eligible because it's based on the amount of points and that people have gotten since week 2 of the NFL season. So you would be behind the 8 ball. But again, get in early next time. But again, get your picks in tonight for Thursday Night Football. Make sure you get all your picks in for the weekend. Right now, Jeff Johnson currently is your leader in the clubhouse with 620 points. Right now, Greg McDonald is there as well. Ryan Johnson, Roberto Alivar, Christian Armitage. I think I'm screwing all these names up. My apologies. They're all in the running right now for the trip for 2 to Las Vegas for first round of the NCAA tournament, courtesy there of TroyWins.com. Everything's covered. Airfare, hotel. You get a dinner there at a steak restaurant in Las Vegas, all courtesy of Troy Wins, TroyWins.com, our Puck the Picker pigskin pool. As for me, I'm currently ranked 64th, 36 and 37 there on the season. 500-ish. That's not bad. It's okay. I'm taking the Saints tonight, by the way, plus the points. That's a stupid pick, but I'm stupid. All right, that's it for the daily puck drop here on a Thursday. And again, a reminder coming up tomorrow, Troy wins, our handicapper, Jim Moore, and Chris Egan from King 5. We'll talk to you tomorrow. As always, we promise to be better.
No shirt, no shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!